Everything changed in a matter of seconds. The spotlight in this league, it always shines the absolute brightest on the quarterback. It shines on the head coach. It shines on those glamorous, sweeping throws downfield that make the highlight reels. But underneath the turf, in the windowless meeting rooms, in the grueling, suffocating heat of training camp, a very different kind of war is raging. Welcome to NFL Nexus. In today's premium documentary explainer, we are pulling right back the curtain on the hidden, high-stakes battles that are actively shaping the Washington Commanders' 2026 season. Because let me tell you, this isn't just about X's and O's anymore. This is about survival. It is about grown men fighting for their absolute livelihoods and a coaching staff placing their entire professional future on a razor's edge. So, let's get into it.
I want you to really think about this for a second. What happens when a franchise gambles its entire future on a single, completely unproven weapon? It is a terrifying proposition, right? In the National Football League, certainty is a luxury that absolutely no one can afford. But what head coach Dan Quinn is orchestrating right now in Washington, it's something else entirely. He is rolling the dice on a radical transformation. He's taking the keys to a multi-million-dollar offense and he is placing them directly in the hands of completely unproven generals. It is, without a doubt, the defining theme of the Commanders' entire offseason. Every single snap taken in practice, every single route run on that practice field, and every single brutal roster cut that's coming, it all traces back to this monumental, systemic risk.
5 and 12. Just let that number sink in for a moment. 5 and 12. That was the dismal, suffocating reality of the Commanders' 2025 season. And in this league, you have to understand, 5 and 12 isn't just a losing record. It is a catalyst for radical, life-or-death franchise changes. It's the kind of record that breeds a highly toxic atmosphere in the building. It's where jobs are inevitably lost, where incredibly promising careers are just abruptly derailed, and where entire organizational philosophies are essentially burned to the ground. Dan Quinn looked at this broken foundation and he knew, instantly, that incremental change wasn't going to be nearly enough to save them. He needed a total overhaul. He needed a spark. Frankly, he needed to wage war on the status quo.
Phase 1. The ultimate coaching gamble.
So, out went the established names. Out went Cliff Kingsbury. Out went Joe Witt Jr. Those guys, the known commodities that general managers usually cling to for safety, they were abruptly ushered out the door. And in their place, a pair of first-time play callers facing literally the most intense pressure imaginable. We're talking about David Blau on offense and Durante Jones on defense. I need you to think about the massive gravity of this move. David Blau is a former backup quarterback. He spent years just holding a clipboard. And now, he is tasked with designing the entire offensive architecture for one of the most heavily scrutinized franchises in all of sports. He has to take the reins and he has absolutely zero margin for error. The rest of the league is watching this extremely closely. Jordan Rodrigue, who is a highly respected senior writer over at The Athletic, recently released her list of breakout coaching candidates. She actually couldn't resist putting both of Washington's coordinators on it. She wrote, and I quote, "Blau and Jones combined to make another very intriguing coordinator pairing, and one facing a lot of pressure after a down year for Washington." And look, the key word there is pressure. Blau isn't just trying to implement some neat, cute little scheme. He has to elevate the reigning Offensive Rookie of the Year, Jaden Daniels. The entire football world is waiting to see if a rookie coordinator can actually build an impenetrable fortress around a franchise quarterback, or if the whole thing is just going to spectacularly collapse.
Let's look at how this grand vision actually translates to the football field. What exact weapons does David Blau have at his disposal right now to execute this offense? Well, okay, he has a top 12 projected offensive line. That is absolutely critical for establishing the trenches, no doubt about it. He has his undisputed wide receiver 1 in Terry McLaurin, a guy fully capable of stretching the field at any moment. And he has an incredibly athletic new weapon in free agent tight end Chikozima Okonkwo, who could easily step up and become the number 2 option in this passing attack. But there's a terrifying reality that is keeping this coaching staff awake at night. There is a glaring, undeniable lack of proven wide receiver depth behind McLaurin. And because of this massive void on the outside, Terry McLaurin is going to face relentless double coverage. Defenses are going to bracket him all day long. What does that mean? It means the backfield is no longer just a rushing unit meant to grind out yards and kill the clock. It has suddenly become a critical, high-stakes battleground for the entire passing game.
Phase 2. A backfield under siege.
Because they don't have that reliable stable of wide receivers to spread the field, the running back room in Washington has become an absolute war zone for survival.
Dan Quinn has essentially overseen the assembly of a deeply complicated, high-floor, but very uncertain ceiling group. Let's be clear, there was no undisputed number one running back here. There just isn't. There's only a collection of hungry, desperate players fighting tooth and nail for a very limited number of roster spots. And they all know that one missed assignment in August could end their NFL dream entirely. First up, you have Rachaad White. He's the high-profile free agent addition from Tampa Bay. During his time with the Bucs, White proved he's a highly reliable safety valve in the passing game. He runs precise routes out of the backfield that most linebackers simply cannot cover. Then you have Ja'Cory Bill Krosky-Merritt. This is a 7th-round pick from last year who just exploded onto the scene when his number was called. And now he's a legitimate breakout candidate. Next is Kaytron Allen, the 6th-round rookie out of Penn State. Allen is this fiercely physical downhill runner. He's the kind of guy who can brutally punish a defensive line, but he's currently fighting for his life on the roster bubble purely because of scheme fit. And finally, you have Jeremy McNichols, the gritty veteran who's fighting just to provide steady depth and bring some special teams value. Look, this isn't just a depth chart. It is a powder keg waiting to ignite. Under David Blau's new committee approach, every single rep in training camp is magnified 100 times. You drop a swing pass in practice, you slide down the board. You miss a read in a scrimmage, you are right on the chopping board.
Phase 3. The Pass Blocking Dilemma.
In the NFL, running the football is only half the job. I want you to consider the tragic irony of a highly productive college star whose entire professional career is currently hanging by a thread, all due to a single microscopic flaw in his game. 1,303. That was the staggering rushing yardage total for Kaytron Allen during his 2025 season at Penn State. Splitting time in a very crowded backfield, he still managed to rack up those massive yards, along with 15 touchdowns, effectively becoming Penn State's all-time leading rusher. That is raw, unadulterated power and potential right there. In college, numbers like that, they make you an absolute legend on campus. They make you practically untouchable. But in the National Football League, in Dan Quinn's ruthless version of Washington, your pass production means absolutely nothing if you cannot execute the fundamental, unseen details of the pro game.
The contrast between these two warriors fighting for their NFL lives right now is just agonizing to watch. On one hand, you have Kaytron Allen, an incredible runner, devastating quick cuts in open space. But at 5'11", there are some serious internal concerns about his raw explosiveness out of his stance. And way more importantly, he is currently viewed by this coaching staff as a pass-blocking liability. Then, on the other hand, you have Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, a 7th-round gem who has proven time and again that he has huge pass-catching upside and the sheer grit to be a reliable third-down protector. In David Blau's highly complex pass-heavy schemes, being 5'11" and struggling to anchor your weight against a charging, furious linebacker isn't just some slight weakness. It is a fatal flaw, and it is actively threatening Kaytron Allen's spot on the final 53-man roster. Let's get incredibly technical for just a second here, because you really need to understand the absolute gravity of being labeled a pass-blocking liability at this elite level of the sport. We are not just talking about missing a block and losing a couple of yards on a busted play. No. When a running back fails to diagnose a complex disguised defensive blitz, or when they simply fail to physically anchor their cleats into the turf to stop a 250-pound edge rusher crashing through the A-gap, they leave their franchise quarterback completely exposed to a blindside hit. I want you to imagine Jayden Daniels, the undisputed future of this entire organization. Imagine him taking a catastrophic, season-ending hit on a crucial third down simply because a rookie running back misread the protection scheme. It's chilling. If you cannot protect Jayden Daniels on third down, your college stats, your university records, your 1,303 yards, they vanish. They mean absolutely nothing.
Phase 4, an overlooked secret weapon.
While one player is out there struggling to adapt to the blistering speed of the pro game, another is completely seizing his destiny. And guys, this is the underdog story of the year. Let's trace the exact chronological path of Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt's meteoric rise last season. Go back to Week 2. Veteran running back Austin Ekeler suffers a devastating injury. Now, in the NFL, one man's tragedy is always another man's profound opportunity. The door just cracked open, maybe an inch. But by Week 5, Krosky-Merritt kicked that door completely off its hinges. He delivered his very first 100-yard start. You could feel the momentum building rapidly in the facility. The coaching staff finally started to realize exactly the kind of weapon they had hidden deep on their depth chart. Then came Week 16, a massive, undeniable explosion against the deeply hated rival Dallas Cowboys. And he didn't just fade away as the grueling season wore on, either. He finished the year strong, with 4 touchdowns in his final 4 games. You can literally feel the momentum of a rookie stepping out of the dark shadows and walking straight into the blazing spotlight of the NFL.
And the absolute crown jewel of that incredible momentum, 72 yards
On Christmas Day, with millions and millions of fans watching across the entire country, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt completely shattered the Dallas Cowboys defense with a breathtaking 72-yard touchdown run. He broke through contact at the line, he found a second gear in the open field, and he just left the secondary in the dust. It was a massive, undeniable statement. It was the exact moment he proved, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that he didn't just belong on the biggest stage, he could completely dominate it.
But look, success in this brutal league, it's fleeting if you ever allow yourself to become complacent. Listen to this terrifying determination from Krosky-Merritt himself, speaking during minicamp. He said his only focus is, quote, just winning and being a whole different version of myself. Evolve or die. That is exactly the mentality you must have to earn the absolute trust of a veteran defensive-minded coach like Dan Quinn. He is directly answering the coaching staff's challenge here. They told him he needs to expand his role. He needs to become a complete three-down back who can do it all. And he gets it. He isn't resting on that 72-yard run against Dallas. He knows that under David Blau, he has to become an entirely new, multifaceted weapon if he wants to survive.
Phase 5. Elevating the passing game. Now, David Blau cannot magically make new elite wide receivers appear on the roster. It's just not going to happen. So he must execute a brilliant, highly tactical pivot to keep this offense alive. He has to rely heavily on the backfield to catch passes. He has to turn his running backs into the ultimate offensive equalizers. And the analytics here tell a truly shocking story about where this team can grow. Let's look at last year. Playing for Tampa Bay, Rachaad White saw 45 targets, and he brought in an incredibly efficient 40 catches. He is a proven, reliable safety valve for any quarterback who is facing pressure. But I want you to look closely at Krosky-Merritt's production. 13 targets, 9 catches, 0 receiving touchdowns. What is genuinely shocking about this isn't just the overall low volume of passes thrown his way. It's the fact that Krosky-Merritt didn't see a single passing target over his final 6 weeks of action last season. Not one. He was utterly ignored in the passing game down the stretch. For David Blau and Jayden Daniels, this represents massive, completely untapped potential. Think about it. Rookie and second-year quarterbacks operating in these highly complex systems, they absolutely require a check-down option when they're processing the blistering speed of an NFL defense. The running back is the safety blanket. If that blanket isn't properly utilized, drive stall and the offense dies, period. If Blau can finally unlock Krosky-Merritt's receiving ability, pairing it with White's proven consistency, it permanently changes the entire geometry of the field for Jayden Daniels.
So, to survive his rookie year as an offensive coordinator, David Blau must execute a flawless, high-speed sequence. Step 1. He has to establish a relentless, bruising 1-2 punch with White and Krosky-Merritt. Keep opposing defenses completely exhausted and keep them constantly guessing whether it's run or pass. Step 2. Unleash the sheer athleticism of tight end Chig Okonkwo as a lethal number 2 passing option. You have to force safeties to pull away from Terry McLaurin. Step 3, and this is where that Kaytron Allen pass-blocking dilemma comes full circle, you deploy Krosky-Merritt on those crucial third downs as a genuine dual threat. He must be able to anchor down and protect Daniels from the blitz, and then, if no one comes, he needs to instantly leak out into the flat as a highly dangerous receiver. And Step 4, by executing those first 3 steps perfectly, Blau will create backfield mismatches against slower linebackers that completely offset that terrifying lack of wide receiver depth we talked about earlier. If this sequence fails, the entire offense crumbles. But if it succeeds, David Blau looks like an absolute genius.
Phase 6. The final roster countdown.
The 2026 season is approaching fast, my friends, and this positional war is far from over. To make sure you don't miss a single second of this unfolding drama, make sure you subscribe to NFL Nexus right now. Hit that like button on this explainer, support the channel by becoming a channel member, and please, drop a comment down below on exactly who you think wins this backfield war. Because out there, in the scorching August heat of training camp, every single physical rep, every pass block, and every route run by Kaytron Allen, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, and Rachaad White is being heavily scrutinized by Dan Quinn and David Blau. The tension inside that building is absolutely palpable. In just a few short weeks, the brutal, unyielding reality of the final 53-man roster cuts will break hearts and define this franchise's future. Out of all these warriors fighting for their NFL lives in the sweltering heat, who survives the gauntlet and who gets left behind?